Why did the Khazars, a powerful steppe empire, adopt Judaism, a choice unlike any other in history? In the crossroads of empires, between Christianity and Islam, the Khazars made a bold decision that still sparks debate today. Was it politics, survival, or genuine faith that guided them? In this video, we uncover the mystery of the Khazar conversion to Judaism, separating legend from history. From royal courts to trade routes, their story reveals how religion shaped power and identity in medieval Eurasia. Join us as we explore one of history's most fascinating and controversial transformations. History is filled with moments that seem to defy expectations, but few are as unique and puzzling as the story of the Khazars and their conversion to Judaism. Unlike other great powers of the medieval world, the Khazars, rulers of a vast steppe empire between the Black and Caspian Seas, did not adopt Christianity or Islam, the two dominant religions of their neighbors. Instead, sometime between the 8th and 9th centuries, their rulers and a significant portion of their elite embraced Judaism, a religion without a vast empire, missionary armies, or political backing. This decision has intrigued historians for centuries. Why did the Khazars become Jewish? Was it a sincere spiritual choice, a calculated political maneuver, or a mixture of both? To answer these questions, we must explore the world of the Khazars, the pressures they faced, and the symbolic power of religion in medieval politics. Who were the Khazars? The Khazars were a Turkic-speaking, semi-nomadic people who rose to prominence after the collapse of the Western Turkic Khaganate in the 7th century. By the 8th century, they had established a powerful Khaganate stretching across the steppes of southern Russia, Ukraine, and Kazakhstan, controlling trade routes that linked China, Central Asia, the Middle East, and Europe. Their empire sat at a crossroads of civilizations. To the west lay the Christian Byzantine Empire, to the south the Muslim Abbasid Caliphate, and to the east other Turkic and Central Asian powers. This geographic position made the Khazars wealthy through trade, but also vulnerable to the influence and ambitions of larger empires. The Khazars were pragmatic rulers, often forming alliances, levying tribute, and controlling trade in furs, slaves, and goods passing through their territory. Yet, as their empire matured, they faced a pressing question: which faith would anchor their society? The religious landscape of the time. By the 8th and 9th centuries, religion was inseparable from politics. Conversion was not simply a matter of private belief. It was often a statement of allegiance and identity. Christianity was expanding northward through Byzantium's missionaries, influencing Slavic and steppe peoples. Adoption of Christianity often implied political and cultural alignment with Byzantium. Islam was spreading rapidly through conquest and trade, with the Abbasid Caliphate at its peak. Conversion to Islam meant opening doors to the Islamic world's markets, but also acknowledging its political dominance. Judaism, in contrast, was not a missionary faith. Jewish communities were scattered across Europe, the Middle East, and Central Asia, but they had no state power behind them. Choosing Judaism was highly unusual. It meant stepping outside the great blocks of Christian and Muslim influence. The Khazars, positioned between two superpowers, were wary of becoming subordinate to either Byzantium or the Caliphate. Religion, then, became a tool of sovereignty. The conversion to Judaism, sources and accounts. The story of the Khazar conversion to Judaism comes from a variety of sources, some Jewish, some Muslim, some Christian. The accounts differ in detail, but agree on the central fact: the Khazar elite adopted Judaism. One of the most famous accounts is the Khazar Correspondence, a series of letters exchanged between Hasdai ibn Shaprat, a Jewish diplomat in Muslim Spain, and King Joseph of the Khazars. In these letters, King Joseph proudly recounts how his ancestors chose Judaism after examining the merits of Christianity and Islam. According to this narrative, the Khazar king invited representatives of the three religions to debate before the royal court. When asked which faith was superior, the Christian praised Judaism over Islam, while the Muslim praised Judaism over Christianity. Seeing this, the Khazar king decided to embrace Judaism, the neutral choice that stood apart from his powerful neighbors. Muslim historians, such as al-Masudi, also mention the conversion, though often with suspicion, suggesting it was a strategic maneuver to resist both Christian and Muslim influence. Byzantine sources likewise acknowledge that the Khazars practiced Judaism, though they often portrayed it as a strange or even heretical choice. Political motivations. The political advantages of adopting Judaism were significant. Maintaining independence. If the Khazars had converted to Christianity, they would likely have fallen under Byzantine cultural and political influence. If they had chosen Islam, the Abbasids might have demanded loyalty. By embracing Judaism, the Khazars carved out a unique identity that resisted domination by either superpower. Balancing diplomacy. Judaism gave the Khazars a diplomatic middle ground. They could engage with both Christian and Muslim worlds without being absorbed into their religious political orbit. This neutrality allowed them to continue their role as mediators of trade and politics across Eurasia. Legitimizing rule. Religion was also a way to legitimize royal authority. By claiming a special covenant with the God of Israel, the Khazar kings could portray themselves as chosen rulers with divine sanction, much like Christian emperors and Muslim caliphs did. Spiritual and cultural factors. While politics played a major role, we should not dismiss the possibility of genuine religious conviction. The Khazars were in contact with Jewish communities through trade and diplomacy. Jewish merchants known as Radhanites traveled widely across the Khazar realm, carrying not only goods but also ideas. Jewish refugees from Byzantium and Persia may have found safe haven in Khazaria, strengthening ties between the Khazars and Jewish traditions. Some scholars argue that the Khazar ruling elite may have found aspects of Judaism appealing. Its emphasis on monotheism, distinct from the polytheistic traditions of earlier Turkic peoples. Its rejection of idols, which resonated with steppe traditions that often preferred abstract spiritual concepts. Its claim to a direct covenant with God, offering the Khazar rulers a sense of divine legitimacy. Though we cannot know the personal faith of Khazar kings, the persistence of Judaism in their court for centuries suggests that it was more than just a superficial choice. The impact on Khazar society. The conversion did not mean that all Khazars became Jewish. Instead, it appears that the royal court, nobility, and ruling elite embraced Judaism, while the broader population continued to practice a mix of traditional Turkic beliefs, Christianity, Islam, and other religions. This pluralism was typical of steppe empires, which often tolerated multiple faiths. Judaism, however, gave the Khazar elite a unifying religious framework. Archaeological evidence, such as Hebrew inscriptions and Jewish burial practices in Khazaria, confirms that Jewish communities thrived there. The Khazar kings adopted Hebrew script for some official uses, and the correspondence with Hasdai ibn Shaprat shows a literate Jewish court with knowledge of biblical traditions. The decline of the Khazars. By the 10th century, the Khazar Empire faced mounting pressures. The rise of the Rus in the north, the decline of Abbasid power, and the expansion of rival steppe groups all eroded Khazar strength. Around the mid-10th century, Khazaria weakened under external attacks, and by the 11th century, it had largely disappeared as a political entity. What happened to the Jewish Khazars after the fall of their state is a matter of debate. Some may have been absorbed into neighboring Jewish communities in Crimea, the Caucasus, and beyond. Others may have assimilated into surrounding Christian or Muslim populations. Myths and controversies. The Khazar conversion has fueled myths far beyond its historical reality. In the 20th century, some theories suggested that Ashkenazi Jews of Eastern Europe were largely descended from Khazars. This idea, while popularized in certain circles, lacks strong genetic or historical evidence. Modern studies show Ashkenazi Jews have primarily Middle Eastern and European ancestry, with little trace of Khazars. In conspiracy theories, the Khazars are sometimes invoked to delegitimize Jewish history, portraying modern Jews as imposters. These claims have been widely discredited by historians. Despite such distortions, the true story of the Khazars remains important, not as a source of controversy, but as an example of how identity, faith, and politics intertwine. Why their story matters. The Khazar conversion to Judaism is one of the most fascinating episodes in world history. At first glance, it may seem like an obscure event, a medieval empire, now largely forgotten, adopting a religion that was neither dominant nor politically advantageous. Yet when we examine it closely, the Khazar story challenges our assumptions about how religion works in history. We often think of religion as spreading through conquest, missionary activity, or cultural dominance. Christianity expanded with the Roman Empire and through Byzantine and Western missionaries. Islam spread rapidly across the Middle East, North Africa, and Asia through both military campaigns and trade networks. Even Buddhism, centuries earlier, spread across Asia through royal patronage and missionary journeys. In this model, religion seems to flow from centers of power outward, with weaker societies adopting the faith of stronger empires. The Khazars disrupt this narrative. Their adoption of Judaism was not the result of conquest, missionary zeal, or cultural assimilation. Instead, it was a deliberate act of choice, identity, and strategy. Their story matters because it reveals a deeper truth about human history, that faith is not merely imposed from above, but can be chosen as a tool of independence, legitimacy, and survival. In what follows, we will explore why the Khazar story is important, not only for understanding their unique place in history, but also for appreciating broader lessons about religion, politics, and human freedom. Religion as choice, not destiny. One of the first lessons the Khazars teach us is that religion is not always a product of historical inevitability. Too often, we look at the map of religions today and assume that their distribution was predetermined. Europe became Christian, the Middle East became Muslim, India became Hindu, East Asia became Buddhist and Confucian. Yet the Khazars remind us that things could have been different. When the Khazars stood at the crossroads between Byzantium and the Abbasid Caliphate, it would have been easy, and perhaps expected, for them to adopt Christianity or Islam. Many of their neighbors did just that. The Bulgars and Rus eventually converted to Christianity, aligning themselves with Byzantium. Many Turkic peoples converted to Islam, integrating into the Muslim world. But the Khazars chose a third path, one that defied the gravitational pull of their neighbors. This choice demonstrates that religion is not always about passively receiving influence. It can also be an act of agency. By selecting Judaism, the Khazars asserted their independence, showing that even smaller states could resist the cultural dominance of empires. Their story matters because it widens our understanding of religious history. It reminds us that the spread of faiths is not just about conquest or submission, but about the conscious decisions of rulers and people seeking meaning, legitimacy, and sovereignty. Religion as strategy. The Khazar conversion also underscores the strategic role of religion in politics. For empires and rulers, religion was never only a matter of private belief. It was a public and political tool. By embracing Judaism, The Khazar elite achieved several goals. Independence from superpowers. They avoided becoming a satellite of either Byzantium or the Caliphate, preserving their sovereignty. A unique identity. Judaism set them apart, giving their empire a distinct character and legitimacy. Diplomatic flexibility. They could trade and negotiate with both Christians and Muslims without being fully absorbed into either camp. This strategic use of religion is not unique to the Khazars. Throughout history, rulers have used religion to strengthen their rule. Constantine the Great used Christianity to unify the Roman Empire. Clovis of the Franks adopted Catholic Christianity to distinguish himself from rival Arian Christian kings. In India, Ashoka promoted Buddhism as a unifying moral code. What makes the Khazars remarkable is that they adopted a minority religion with no empire to back it. Unlike Christianity or Islam, Judaism could not offer them vast networks of allies or powerful patrons. This suggests that the Khazars were less interested in gaining external support than in affirming their independence. Their story matters because it reminds us that religion is not only about spiritual truth, but also about practical survival. Faith can be a form of strategy, a way for societies to navigate dangerous political landscapes. Religion as identity. Beyond politics, the Khazar story shows how religion can serve as a marker of identity. For the Khazar elite, Judaism was not merely a shield against foreign influence. It became a defining feature of who they were. Religion has always played this role in history. It tells people not only what they believe, but also who they are. For medieval Europeans, to be Christian was to belong to a particular civilization. For Muslims, the Ummah provided a sense of belonging that transcended tribe or region. For Jews, scattered across the diaspora, their faith was the bond that held them together despite centuries of exile. By adopting Judaism, the Khazars gave themselves an identity that was distinct and enduring. It was a way of saying, we are not Byzantines nor Abbasids. We are something else. This choice echoes into the modern world, where religion still functions as a marker of identity. In places like Northern Ireland, South Asia, or the Middle East, religious identity often defines communities more strongly than language or ethnicity. The Khazars show us that this is not a new phenomenon. It is a deep-rooted aspect of human societies. The power of pluralism. Another reason the Khazar story matters is that it highlights the reality of religious pluralism in the medieval world. The Khazars themselves did not impose Judaism on their entire population. Archaeological and textual evidence suggests that Christianity, Islam, and traditional Turkic beliefs all coexisted in Khazaria. This pluralism was typical of steppe empires, which were more concerned with loyalty and tribute than with enforcing uniformity of belief. Yet it stands in contrast to the narrative we often hear about medieval religion as rigid and intolerant. By maintaining a Jewish ruling elite alongside a diverse population, the Khazars demonstrate that religious diversity was not only possible, but also practical. Their empire thrived as a crossroads of cultures precisely because it allowed multiple faiths to coexist. Their story matters because it offers an alternative vision of medieval society, one in which tolerance and diversity were not modern inventions, but lived realities in certain places. Lessons for modern times. Religion is not destiny. Just as the Khazars chose a path different from their neighbors, societies today can make independent choices about identity and values, even when caught between powerful blocs. Religion is political. Faith continues to play a strategic role in global politics, shaping alliances, conflicts, and identities. Understanding this helps us interpret the modern world more clearly. Pluralism is strength. The Khazar model of religious diversity shows that societies do not need to enforce uniformity to survive. Tolerance can be a source of resilience. Beware of myths. The Khazar story has been distorted by conspiracy theories, particularly in modern debates about Jewish identity. By studying the real history, we can resist these misuses of the past. Why the Khazars still fascinate us. The Khazars continue to capture imaginations because their story sits at the edge of history and myth. Their empire disappeared, leaving only fragments of evidence. Their conversion to Judaism remains shrouded in mystery. Was it sincere faith, political calculation, or both? This ambiguity makes them a canvas onto which later generations have projected their own ideas. For some, the Khazars symbolize independence and defiance, the small state that refused to bow to great empires. For others, they are a symbol of mystery, a people who chose a faith against all odds. For conspiracy theorists, sadly, they have become a tool for distortion. Their story matters because it shows how history itself can be contested, reinterpreted, and even weaponized. To study the Khazars is not only to learn about the past, but also to reflect on how we use the past in the present. The Khazar conversion to Judaism is more than an odd footnote in history. It is a profound reminder that faith is not only about conquest or submission, but also about choice, identity, and strategy. The Khazars show us that small states can resist the pull of empires, that rulers can use religion as a tool of independence, and that identity can be forged through conscious decisions rather than imposed destinies. Their pluralism offers an alternative vision of medieval society, and their legacy warns us against simplistic narratives about religion and power. In the end, the Khazar story matters because it speaks to universal themes: the struggle for sovereignty, the search for meaning, the power of choice, and the enduring complexity of human history. It is a story not only about a vanished empire, but about the possibilities of human freedom. The story of the Khazars' conversion to Judaism remains one of history's most intriguing mysteries. Whether driven by politics, faith, or the desire for independence, their decisions shaped the destiny of an empire and left echoes that still spark debate today. What we do know is that the Khazars remind us how identity and belief are never simple. They are choices forged in the fires of history. If you enjoyed this exploration, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into hidden histories. Until next time, keep questioning the past to better understand the present.